Alright guys, I'm going to give you a little walkthrough of how I got into e-boards, gas-powered skateboards, so on. So I am a bit of a hobbyist. I love to build stuff, pretty much anything that I'm interested in. And so we were going to go on vacation, and I was told you can either buy a bike or find something way to get around the park. I didn't feel like buying a bike, so I decided I was going to build an e-board, and this is what I came up with. So at the park we went to on holidays, it's all paved and there's speed bumps everywhere. So I thought, well, I'm going to have to get the board off the ground, some kind of suspension so I can ride over these speed bumps a little faster than normal. So I decided I would go online and buy all the parts. So I went on Princess Auto, I found these turf tires, and I thought that'll give me a little bit smoother ride over the bumps. I also went on Amazon, I got these shocks. I also got a steering dampener, and on Amazon I also got these motors. They're 250 watts a piece, and they were cheap. They're really cheap. They're just scooter motors for like your old person scooter. So I also had to find a sprocket for that chain because it's so small, it's hard to find. It's actually off a little pocket bike, which is, I had to drive a ways to get one because shipping from China was never going to get there in time, because I kind of started this project a little late, because I thought of it a little late. So we ended up starting building the frame. I'll throw that in the video as well. And so I built the frame, built the suspension and everything, and then mounted my wheels. And the first time I actually rode it was I was getting pulled behind a four-wheeler because I didn't have the motors on yet, or the batteries in. For the batteries, those motors only run on 24 volts. So I ended up getting these 12 volt 10 amp hour batteries, and I bought them first, then I built the frame so that they would just nicely drop in, all four of them. And so I have 40 amp hours of battery in here. Now these are not the proper batteries. This board should have lithium ion. I'm hoping to upgrade to that soon. So I had it running on 24 volts, and I also got a gauge here, a battery percentage gauge, as well as it has voltage on it. And I also got a speed controller. Now the problem with this is these motors drew more than the speed controller could put out, so I ended up frying it. It's still in there because it's cut into the board, which kind of sucks. Maybe I'll have to build a new board for this as well. It is only half inch plywood, which is cheap. So I wanted speed controlled, but I could not find a speed controller in time. So what I ended up getting is from my brother-in-law is a solenoid. And yeah, that's a lot of wiring. It looks like a mess, but they're all useful. So I ended up getting a solenoid, and I also ended up packing in a bunch of these resistors. Now, I thought I would get enough resistors in there that it would take off slow, but actually it wasn't even enough to get going. You kind of had to help the board along and then it would get going, but for the most part I just gave it full juice right away, and yeah, I started to wear the rubber off. That wasn't good. So that's pretty much the setup. It is lean steer like an actual skateboard is. And oh yes, so all this wiring goes to here. So basically this was the go button. You just punched it and she would go. I don't know if it's actually plugged in. No, it's not. But so you'd hit this and it would just go full tilt. You'd hit this one and it would start off slower, so slow that it wouldn't go. And this was the brake. So this one, this switch here for the brake, basically just is wired in to take the black and the red, negative and positive, and connect them together, which takes the juice from that the motor's producing from coasting, and it like puts it right back in. That's the best I can explain it. I'm not an electrician, but it basically takes the power it's making from the motor rotating and putting it back against itself. And the faster you're going, the stronger it brakes. As you slow down slower, the braking is less powerful, so you're slowing down slower. Now, the first time, I didn't quite know that at first. The first time I hit the brakes was, yeah, it was alright. And I never ate dirt, nothing. But then I was going down the hill over, just down the road here, and it's a long hill, and I got up going faster than this board will go on power, and when I hit the brakes, I almost flipped over the front end. I had to let off real quick and get myself back further, and the board got up more speed again. And the second time I hit the brakes, I was ready for it, and I didn't have the grip tape on, and I literally almost slid right off the front. It was that strong. It scared me quite a bit. I was doing probably 35, 40 kilometers an hour and on asphalt, so that was not going to turn out very pretty. But so far, as it stands, I have never really wiped out on this board. It is quite stable, and even at the end of our holidays, I would be having this thing going 25, 30 kilometers an hour straight over all the speed bumps out there. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. Because of the tires being so bouncy and the suspension, you got a lot of travel. You'd still feel the speed bumps, but it was nothing like it was going to throw you off. So that was a lot of fun. So yeah, that's basically how I got into building these boards, and let me say they are a lot of fun to ride. So as it stands, this one right now, with these two motors that suck a lot more juice than they should, and the brushless motor will, and these lead acid batteries, it's still got 8 kilometers of range. So one day of riding it around the trailer park, and I would charge it at overnight on a slow charge, and she would be good for the whole next day. Yeah, down at the beach it was kind of hard on sand. It just sat there and kind of spun. But along the edge of the water where it was more packed and the sand was a bit wet, you could actually get up quite a bit of speed. So that was good. That made it worth it. The next board I hope to build will be a dual drive. This is just single drive. This is a solid axle. It does not rotate. This just drives. I also built in here, I also had to build a bearing right here. I'll probably add in another clip of that. So that's what's keeping it from sliding in and out. So my brother-in-law supplied me with this aluminum to go around the outside, and I also bent it up for me. Now the way we work together is I'll do projects for him, and I'll get supplies or some work done. So that's probably what I'll be doing later today, is going to his place. It's early Saturday morning. I wouldn't say early, it's probably about 9 o'clock now. But I'll probably be going to his place this afternoon and helping him out, and that'll work out for the upcoming parts that I have that I want him to make for me. He also has like the lathe, the milling machine and whatnot, so that's quite helpful for projects. So this is the charging part here, and I also have the charger here. I'll grab it. Basically, this is what I got for a charger. It's got a little paint splatters on it. It's 12 24 volt charger. And instead of having the clips like it normally does, I snip them off and I put this plug on, which is the other half of the plug on the board. And you just plugged it in and went set your settings and let it charge overnight. So that was pretty great. So that pretty much wraps it all up. Today I was just going to strip it all down, take the batteries out, strip it down, take all this wiring out, and we're going to get it ready to wire in the next motor, and also it'll be remote controlled, so that will be awesome. No more cords to deal with. Alright guys, so this is the motor. It's a 6384 eboard motor, 190 kV. It's a flips guy, and this has 90 amps max, or 95 amps max, and 4000 watts max. So on these motors we had 500 watts, and that was a lot of power. When you gave it full juice instantly through the solenoid, you went. And if you weren't ready, the board went and you didn't. So this is going to be a lot more power, but on the other hand, it's also going to be controlled power. This is the vest that I got for it, and this is the 4.12. Yeah, it's the older one, but it was big enough for this, and the bigger you go, the more it costs. I have a belt drive for this, so what I'm going to have is from the motor to the other pulley is going to be belt driven, and then on the other end of that belt driven shaft I am going to have the chain drive. Because the belt drive is so much smaller, it's not going to fit over the shaft, and it's going to be hard to get it down in there. So I'm going to have the motor out here, probably facing this way, belt drive up, and then the chain drive coming down behind it. So that's pretty much it. So for now I'm going to take it all apart. While I was on holidays, somebody asked me, does your board have a name? And I was like, no it doesn't. So a bunch of these girls decided they were going to come up with a name for my board, and they came up with the name Franklin. And it kind of stuck. So this board's named Franklin. Do you guys have any ideas what the gas board should be named? So if you guys have any great name ideas for my gas board, leave a like and put a comment down. So now I'm just going to tear it all apart.